Things that go bump in the library. What makes a ghost story so memorable? Is it the things that scare us? The mysteries they leave behind that need to be solved? Or the stories that just refuse to be forgotten? Do you think you can become immortal from writing about death? Today, I'd like to share 3 books that explore all of these ideas in different ways. What if growing up in a graveyard wasn't scary and was actually the safest place for you? And what if the ghost residents in that graveyard raised you? They were your only friends, only family, and even your teachers. What if you were raised completely by ghosts? Well, for Nobody Owens, or Bod for short, in the Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman, this is his life. The Graveyard Book is a horror fantasy chapter book where Nobody Owens doesn't fully know why he lives and is being raised in a graveyard in England. He only knows that it is the safest place for him after his family is murdered by a man named Jack. With coming to the graveyard as a toddler, each chapter of the Graveyard Book follows a new heart-pounding adventure or mystery as Bod gets older. Bod faces some evil but very alive people in the outside world. But also meets kind, ghostly friends who help him learn about friendship, love, and the meaning and curiosity of being alive. With his supernatural friends and family, Bod has a lot to learn and will eventually have to make the decision on whether he will stay in the graveyard where it is safe or go out into the world of the living, the world where everything is unknown. With these lessons to learn, heart-pounding adventure, loving ghosts, and more, the Graveyard Book is recommended for readers aged 9 and older and is available at the Cumberland County Library. Will Bod be brave enough to venture out into the world of the living? Will Jack ever find him? Read to find out. So as we can see, ghosts aren't always the bad guys or scary. They can also be friends and family. In real life, humans have been sharing ghost stories for thousands of years across cultures and even continents. But if ghosts aren't always scary, why do ghost stories exist all around the world? Well, our next book might help us better understand these stories through history, traditions, and different beliefs. Have you ever felt goosebumps when a friend or family member was telling a scary story, even though you knew it probably wasn't real? And were you still having fun? Have you ever wondered why you might enjoy being frightened, even when you know you're safe? Or have you ever wondered or wanted to learn more about ghost stories and where they come from? Well, Chilling with Ghosts, a totally factual field guide to the supernatural by Insha Fitzpatrick, is a non-fiction field guide for people just like you who want to explore the history and folklore of ghost stories and supernatural legends. Written as a field guide for curious people, Chilling with Ghosts explores the origins of ghost legends and where they come from. It asks why people throughout history believe in spirits, and how ghosts continue to show up in many things to this day. Beginning with defining what ghosts are and how to bust them, the book uses science and history to help us better answer and understand what exactly ghosts are. The book takes us to haunted places and locations all around the world, including Mexico and the catacombs in Paris. And it talks about everything from ancient myths to strange scientific phenomena, and even learning about famous ghosts and folklore. And it even includes a section on how to write your own ghost story. Chilling with Ghosts helps you answer the question, do you believe in ghosts? Or do you just have fun with the stories we share about them? Using fun, colorful illustrations, interesting facts, and cool activities like making your own ghostly ectoplasm. Chilling with Ghosts, a totally factual field guide, is recommended for readers age 8 to 12 years old. Whether you believe in ghosts or if you just like their stories, ghost stories can tell us a lot about ourselves. They can tell us what we fear and what we wonder about the unknown, and even where our imagination can take us that we will never forget. Now that we've learned a little about ghost stories and the supernatural legends from around the world with Chilling with Ghosts, as well as hearing about friendly, kind ghosts in the Graveyard Book, you may be wondering, well, just how do these stories and legends become these books? What was the first scary book that talked about ghosts? You may even be asking just who would even write the stories about spooky ghosts and creepy supernatural? Well, this last book may just help us answer these questions and better understand who influences the scary books we read today. Normally, ghost stories don't just appear out of nowhere. Someone has to write them. There have been a few people who have helped create the dark and mysterious stories we know and enjoy, but one name in particular lurks above the others: Edgar Allan Poe. Who Was Edgar Allan Poe by Jim Gigliotti is a biographical illustrated chapter book that talks about the fascinating and yet ordinary life of the American writer and poet Edgar Allan Poe. Beginning with his sad and challenging childhood, and into his teens. This is him right here. And even into his adulthood. The book tells the story of how Poe used his imagination to create and write stories that still inspire us today, almost 200 years later. Through exploring the history of America in the 1800s and Poe's life, Who Was Edgar Allan Poe introduces us to some of his most famous works, such as The Raven. Which is mentioned in Chilling with Ghosts. And the book also introduces us to themes such as mystery, suspense, horror, and the macabre, which is a very large part of the Graveyard Book. With learning about history and knowing of Poe's personal life experiences, a better understanding of the influences that shaped his writing can be made, as well as possibly why his stories remain so popular and influential today. Using illustrations to help show his life, interesting history, and more, Who Was Edgar Allan Poe is recommended for readers age 8 to 12 years old and is available at the Cumberland County Library. Even if you have never read one of Edgar Allan Poe's poems or stories, you may have come across something that has been influenced by him. From seeing creepy ravens flying in the sky and hearing your hearts beating, to spooky haunted houses and even those mystery-solving detectives, Edgar Allan Poe has helped shape the stories we still read, watch, hear, tell, and write today. Ghosts can be more than just scary things that can haunt us. They can be protectors in family, like the ghosts who raised Bod in the Graveyard Book. Ghosts can also be the stories and traditions that connect people across time as well as the world, like told in Chilling with Ghosts. They can also live on through the words, stories, and poems of their writers like Edgar Allan Poe, whose stories continue to encourage readers today. Whether you enjoy found family, heart-pounding adventure, fun historical facts, or the dark and macabre, these books remind us that stories never truly disappear. They are passed from person to person, family to family, and culture to culture, just waiting for someone new to discover them. So I have one final spooky question to leave you with. Which story will haunt you next?